Hi everyone, I think we'll go ahead and just get started. Thank you all for being here. My name is Sharia Jimenez. I'm with Cuadro Design. We've been hosting this series of focus groups to really dive into specific issues around building a casita. This focus group is centered on construction. We have Spanish interpretation available. The instructions for how to do that is right here on the slide. The Spanish interpretation is being brought to us by the Tucson Language Justice Collective. Um, if you would like to have the interpretation in Spanish, you click on the little globe icon. It works best if you stay in one language and don't try to switch between the two. Um, so that's how that works. Um, uh, so welcome. We have our agenda. We're going to do a quick presentation. Try to keep it under 30 minutes. I don't know. We may or may not have a live poll. I can't remember. I don't know if we got to that, but
we do. We'll have a short live poll.
We have a very short live poll, and then we will have most of the time for conversation, comments. We ask that you please hold all your comments till the end. We'll do our best to respond to the chat, but we also probably won't be able to respond. We prefer to also comment in the chat till the end. So here's our group guidelines. Please try to speak slowly to assist our Spanish speakers. Again, try to refrain from using the chat during until we start the group discussion. We'll have 60 minutes more or less for group discussion. Please, 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 we ask that you turn on your cameras and everyone participate. We are also giving gift cards for participation. So we really would love if people would participate, at least you don't have to talk, but at least by turning on your camera, it just kind of helps the discussion, helps us see each other's faces. This is an opportunity to share and receive knowledge. But we also realize that there's a lot of obstacles along the way, and we're all trying to be patient with the city and everyone as we all get through this process together. So again, just be respectful of everyone's experience level and level of knowledge, as this ordinance is pretty new. So we're all working through the kinks together.
And we have, I want to also just let you know that Vado and Logan are both on the call, so we can give a shout out to them at some point too, Shay.
Yeah, and we also have some other builders. I see Durazo on the line, and I'm sure we have others. So I'm so thankful to all the builders who showed up, because we've been getting asked a lot for a lot of contractor referrals. So thank you all of our builders for showing up, and we hope that we can add you to our referral list. So as we continue, our goals in general were about increasing the number of affordable housing units, but also just wealth generation for families and housing stability by creating property, especially as all mortgages have gone up, income properties more and more are helping supplement people's incomes. Intergenerational living, we have a lot of goals, right? So these survey results were from our first survey we took, where we had over 200 people in attendance. And what was really interesting to us was the bottom question we asked was, do you or your family members have any construction skills? And we had an overwhelming majority that said yes. So we know that we have also in Tucson a unique, a very strong DIY culture, and a lot of owner builders who are interested in doing this. To what degree people are able to take on, different tasks is, I think that's what we know less about, but definitely I think people are down to paint and do finish work and those types of things. So our Mi Casita timeline, we've already been through our first two focus groups. We went through financing last month and permitting. This month we're on building. We'll be talking about rentals next month. We want to have a discussion on permitting, dealing with non-conforming or already structures that are already existent that are more or less illegal. And then we want to have a discussion around the community land trust model, as the community land trust is one of our partners Actually, and before I continue, I don't know if we cut out that slide of our project team. Is Gigi and Maggie, are you on the call? I wanted to introduce
I don't
Gigi.
think either of them are on the call at the moment.
Gigi and Maggie of the Community Land Trust Piclet. They are our project partners, and they are great. And we hope to incorporate somehow that model into this work as we move forward. So again, that's kind of our timeline. We're hoping really in this segment to connect with small builders and people who want to build at this scale. So we'll just start. This again is more for homeowners and people who have no background in construction. So for our builders, this is going to be very high level, brief overview. Not intended for you all, but more for people who aren't familiar with the process at all. So basically, I'm starting with the building code because that really is kind of the builder's Bible. I mean, everything, whether you're an owner builder or you're a contractor, we're all beholden to this document, and it's our #1 form of life safety and, fire, it's really the #1 document we have to hold us all accountable to a minimum kind of quality of building standards. So, in the Tucson region in our jurisdiction, we're using the 2018 code now, which is, if some of you haven't done projects in like 5 or 6 years, that was recently updated, like within the past, I can't remember when we went to 2018, but it was within the past like 3-4 years. We were in 2012 before, so that all has been updated, and there were a few big changes that happened when we moved to 2018 code. You'll always want to check your local, this will vary from every jurisdiction, but because the amendment passed in Tucson, we're going to be focusing specifically on the city of Tucson jurisdiction and what's allowable here. And so we have, this is just a list of all the applicable building codes for our jurisdiction, which you have for residential work, you have the International Residential Code, the Energy Conservation Code, the International Plumbing Code, Mechanical Code, Electric Code, our Outdoor Lighting Code, which is unique also to Tucson, Pima County, where we have low-level lighting. So that also gets inspected, and you have to, you're only allowed a certain number of lumens on site, which is how you measure the brightness of the lights. And then we have, of course, our zoning code, which we went it through, a little bit last time on our last session. And of course, you always want to check the City of Tucson's website for the most up-to-date list of applicable codes, because this changes. Again, codes get updated. I don't know, I think it's like every 4 to 5 years. So you always want to check and see what version we're using. So the outdoor lighting code, I just briefly put the worksheet for this. We'll be sending this out to everyone. If you're not familiar with it, the biggest thing here is that you want to be using a full cutoff fixture, which means that the light has to be shielded on at least 3 sides. So basically it has to be downward facing light. And you want to, again, you have to do the calculation based on your site area, and this worksheet kind of helps you go through that calculation. But it ends up being, like, for most typical lot sizes around 5,000 square feet, you can only really have maybe 1 unshielded fixture, and then like 3 or 4 full cutoff fixtures is kind of what most of the calcs work out when I've done them. Oh, and with that, you also get an exception if you have a full cutoff fixture under a porch. That doesn't count towards your lumens. So that's one way to get more lighting without contributing to our light pollution. This ordinance is all about protecting our dark sky and not contributing to light pollution. So our building code website links are here also. All of the building codes from the IRC all the way through plumbing and mechanical, they're all available free online. So again, there's no excuse not to know it, not to use it. It's there, it's available, the information's out there. You don't have to buy the $40, $50, $100 version, those books are helpful to have if you, again, are in this industry. It's good to have those resources, but I find myself, I have the book, but I use the online version the most just because it's quickest and easiest to get to. The International Illustrated Code book is really helpful for people who are more visual and who aren't interested in reading as much text. That can be a really helpful companion book. And then we have the links for the Unified Development Code, as well as all the list of applicable codes and local amendments. And that's the other piece, is that not only do we have the building code, every jurisdiction then modifies the building code and those in amendments, and those amendments are all listed on that website. So we're just kind of going to go through this in sequence, more or less of construction, but also, building code. So we kind of go through the phases. You're going to start everything you need to know about with soils and footings and foundations and retaining walls is found in chapter 4. Types of wall construction, all in chapter 6. And you don't have to know, for homeowners, you don't need to know the details, but having a sense of what type of construction you want, having a sense of kind of the basics helps with cost estimating, right? I mean, it just helps to have a pretty clear doubt. The more clear you are and dialed in you are of the picture you want will just help you understand quicker what it means in terms of cost. So for most people, and the building code kind of is arranged almost in order of expense. Wood light frame construction is by far going to probably be the #1 choice for everybody because it's the least expensive and it's the most widely used and the system that pretty much every contractor knows how to do. So anything else is kind of going to be more specialty and going to be a lot more expensive and is really more geared towards commercial or fire rated construction. And then we have the appendices, and I wanted to mention these because there are some new updates to the code since 2012. We now have a tiny house appendix, which actually offers some really important relief for the building codes in terms of stairs and ceiling clearances and lofts, and it's really relevant to the casita conversation because a lot of people do want to build under that 400 square feet. And you really do need those extra reliefs to make some of those floor plans work out. We also have in the building code is a section on light straw clay construction, which is exciting because this is a new, at least to our jurisdiction, a newer sustainable solution that's allowable now. And we have straw bale construction also in there. Roof construction, again, you have the option of at least in the residential code of wood or the light frame steel construction. Another really important thing I always ask clients when I'm like looking at, or when they tell me when we're trying to nail in scope is, kind of what type of roof you want. There's so many options available, but really the least expensive is going to be the most simple, right? So the most common in Tucson is going to be either your gable roof, which is like the classic kindergarten drawing roof, or your flat roof or parapet roof in the Southwest parapet, which is the walls come up and just is flat on top and the roof is sitting below. That type of roof. Anything once you start getting into more angles like hips or mansard, it starts getting more expensive, and it's probably not going to be, if you're budget mindful, it's not going to be something you're going to want to do. But every now and then, yeah, I have clients who want to do something super specialty and unique, so then we would start looking at those other options. And then your construction sequencing, again, it's just good to just have a basic understanding so you know what to expect as a homeowner, and what you're up against in terms of your site and everything that's going to happen. You obviously start with your site grading and your excavation, rough in utilities go in, and you especially might want to be kind of mindful of this if you're planning on, again, doing the contracting yourself and you need to schedule and call in inspections, this is all going to be listed in the pro website, but again, more or less, and it's all goes with construction sequencing. Foundations, then you have your wall framing, your roof framing, then the sheathing goes on, and this is again for specific to framing, light frame construction, because again, that's going to probably be the most common type that people are going to use. Roofing, then what kind of, once the building's more or less dried in, then you start moving to the interior with the rough-in mechanical doors and windows. And once the building's fully roughed in, you can lock everything. That's when you really go into the finishes of drywall and cabinetry and carpets, etc., paint, all that. Inspections, the main point of communication between the builder and the city is going to be the property research online tool. We have the link here, and have a quick just screenshot from a project I have that's open. It's a little bit tricky to navigate. The hardest issue I have with the pro website is the address search. So when you type in the address, you actually have to it only likes it a certain way, which is the address number first, the direction with no first letter only of the direction, north, N, S, W, or E, with no period, and then the street name. So what always trips me up is that direction, because it has to be typed in the right way. But you'll know you did it right when you see like the list populated. You'll see like a list and you can pick what your specific address is. And information on requesting an inspection is here as well, and the number for who to call. And again, this pro website basically tracks the progress of your project. So whether you're a homeowner who wants to check in on how building progress is going, or you are the contractor, or however you decide to do your project, this is how you track the progress with the city. You can see which inspections have been approved, partially approved. That is here in this result column. You can see who the inspector is, and you can see the description of which inspection it is. And then you'll need the inspection number listed here when you call, so they know which type of inspection you're asking for. So all of this is crucial to communicating with the city. The other two documents I have here that I find really helpful for owner builder teams is the owner builder affidavit. This will be required to be submitted with the plans if you are deciding to go that route. So we'll send that copy of that form out as well. And then the other helpful, I forgot to mention this in the permitting video that we had last week, and maybe we'll find a way to add that in later. But the easiest way, especially for accessory structures and stuff that's going in the back of the house, where maybe you already have a pool or you have a tree, or you need some relief with your setbacks, the easiest way to get around, get some setback relief without having to go through a DDO or a very lengthy, which is a very lengthy process, adds about 2 to 3 months to the schedule. If you need to get basically some kind of variance for the setbacks, if you're non-conforming, is to get the neighbor sign off. So you just go talk to your neighbor and say you want to be closer to the property line, like you just need to be 2 feet instead of 7 feet. If your neighbor's okay with it, you can get them to sign this agreement, and then you get that relief for that setback. So this is a really helpful tool that we have that gives us some flexibility without having to go through a much more lengthy process. And it's really, because at the end of the day, I also really feel that, building and construction is a lot about the agreements between neighbors, and you do, regardless, you really do want to check in with your neighbors when you start a construction project. The construction projects tend to kind of, be disruptive to communities, or they can be. Some neighbors find them disruptive. So it's just always a good idea to check in with your neighbors anyways. So, but this sign off is specifically for that. And this is just a template. You could write up your own, but the city has this as an example. And then as far as reducing cost and design, I mean, the biggest thing is to keep it simple, simple roof forms, simple plan geometry. Obviously, the simplest thing to build is a box with 4 corners. You want to try to reduce wasted space in the plan. I mean, this is also really why it's great to bring in a draftsperson or architect, because they really know how to maximize your your square footage and get the most efficiency out of your dollars. Try to avoid specialty or novelty products. I get a lot of people call and ask or tell me, oh, I want to do shipping container construction. Like, I want to, that seems like a really great idea and maybe less and more affordable. But in most cases, unless you're doing all of that work yourself, it's not something that is standardized in the construction industry. It's not a system that people really know how to work with very easily. It's also steel construction, which is more expensive than framing. So if you need to modify it a lot and start adding doors and windows, you're going to have to hire, a welder or somebody who knows how to work with metal, which is more expensive than framing. So, or can be, so it's really not, again, you want to stick with stuff that's allowable in the building code because it's what's legal, it's what people know, and it's the easiest to get through the system. So anything that seems like it's too good to be true probably is. It's just, it really comes down to how many people know the construction methodology and can also build it for you. And the more you limit that pool of people, the more the likely that cost is going to go up. And you want to, try to look for alignments. Naturally, you don't want to design that's going all over the place, and try to design on a construction module, which is typically, every 2 feet, 4 feet, or 8 feet. And then here's a quick sample of an estimate, construction estimate. If you're building your own project, I think it's great to keep a running tab of your costs. We do want to have, as we develop this more, eventually a construction Excel file template for people who are really wanting to be, again, mindful of the costs. And you can do it a few different ways. Sometimes people just put in a fixed rate for the line item. If you get more fancy and technical with it, you can do quantities and units and do it that way. And I've also talked to a few clients who find it really helpful to have a separate project account for, especially, again, if you're going to be spending more than, 50,000, you kind of want to keep track of your budget and not get it mixed in with the groceries and the gas and everything else. And if you're hiring a general contractor, you should ask for an estimate with line items and the scope clearly written down. And again, it's important to, this is to me where the biggest hurdle when you're hiring any kind of contractor is communication, and everyone being super clear about what the scope is, what is and isn't included, and just going through that very, very thoroughly in the beginning before you start the project and during bidding while you're getting bids. And really the best way to do this is to have construction documents, because construction documents really capture the full scope, and that's why they're such detailed and exhaustive drawing sets, because you're really trying to nail in and dial in the scope. So for bigger projects especially, it's really hard to do them and to get good and accurate construction estimating without plans. So with that being said, we'll start the live poll.
Great. I will put this link. There's just 4 or 5 questions. It's a brief poll. It's just part of something we're doing for each of these sessions to help give us a little bit more data, a little bit more input. And so, yes, let me type this into the chat for everyone. And yeah, if everyone, it should only take a couple minutes, and then we'll all review the results together. So I'll share my screen shortly, but I'm going to give everyone a minute to get started. let me know in the chat if you're having any issues locating this link.
And I saw a question in the chat if from Bill that once you have the plans approved, all the codes will be addressed in these plans. And yes, that's correct. That's again the advantage of submitting your plans to the plans reviewers, is that they're checking your plans against the building code and making sure everything's done safely and correctly. So you don't have to know the building code. You just kind of should have a basic understanding. I think it just helps to be aware of what you're signing up for when you sign up for a construction project. I think sometimes to yeah, it's new, it's different, and not everyone knows what to expect. And I think it helps again just with communication during the project. You know, why is my yard all torn up, and why is that pile of dirt over there? And you know, it's just good to be aware of what you're getting into, because it is especially if you're doing a project, even a small 500 square foot project. You know, it's disruptive. It is. It's, you know, it's gonna be a little bit messy for a while. It's just the construction process, but it's like anything, you know, it's you got to go through it to get to that final finished result. So you know, it's just good to be aware again, especially if you've never done this before, you know, the kind of the sequence and the timeline and what you're going to be up against.
Okay, I'm going to begin sharing the poll results. There we go. And so it looks like it's kind of split 50, literally 50-50, which is kind of what we've been noticing so far in most of our sessions with those who have experience with construction. Do you anticipate doing some or all of the building yourself? And some are. It's also quite split. So again, I'm glad we are gauging this and know how detailed our resources need to be for those of you. Do you have friends or family members with construction skills that would help you? Yep, split again. Many people do and are planning on that. Have you already reached out to contractors for your Casita project? So that's the minority. The minority of people have so far. Most people have not yet taken that step. Have you hired general contractors or skilled laborers in the past that you would recommend? Looks like we have people with some good recommendations in this network. And yeah, and if so, oh, I think I skipped one. Are there any additional resources you feel like you need in order to begin or participate in the building process? Split again. People are not sure, and other people are quite sure they need some more resources. And thank you very much. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but thank you everyone for taking the time to do that.
Yeah, that's it. I think we're ready for the conversation. So we just keep it pretty broad and open-ended. We're just asking, you know, about what the barriers you already are facing or maybe facing, and then what resources or, you know, would be helpful, and what insights you can share, especially from people who are in this business. So that's it. Yeah, again, we'd like to keep it pretty open-ended.